time is it? 9:45. Give or take. I'm gonna do a couple more roses, probably. Let's see what else we got over here. We got some small stock we can work with. Going to do some more small stuff today. Nothing big. I believe this is a piece of that coil spring. Yes. So, might do another coil spring knife. I like them. They're good practice. And I've already got it set up for it, so I might as well go ahead and make another coil spring knife. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do... Let me see here. What else do I have? Large piece of cut off. I don't really know what that came from, but I'm not going to use that. I do have a fairly hefty grade 8 bolt I can use, so I'm probably going to use this grade 8 bolt and a piece of coil spring, and we'll do a couple little small knives. Get the forge fired and we'll get going. As always, comments are always highly appreciated, so don't hesitate to leave a comment or ask questions. Says anything, yes, I know it's not always a good idea to forge shorts, but I kind of enjoy it. Keep me on my toes, so to speak. I think I'm going to do a drop point 100. Thank you for the like, I appreciate that. How's it going, Matthew? And as always, when they're finished, they'll be up for sale on my Facebook page. smoking, vaping, same thing, I guess. I'm a bladesmith, not a blacksmith. I do some blacksmithing, but I'm not a blacksmith. C-Rock, what do you want to learn, man? Okay, so you want to talk about principles. Okay, so right now what I'm doing is drawing out. Taking the rounded section of my hammer. You can see that side's got a little rounded dome. That side's flat. You hit that with the round side. That's more aggressive. It moves material quicker. Hit it with the flat side. That cleans it up a little bit. See how that's flattened out so much from this little round section. We're going to see if I can get this to go. I might have to switch to a heavier hammer for that piece. This hammer is they call it a half round hammer. It's not a true ball peen, but it's a half round. That means it's one half is rounded for rounding and drawing out material. The other half is flat for cleaning up and planishing. This hammer was made for me by a blacksmith in Ireland. I've had to rehandle it. His name's Finian Liam Chrissy. Great dude, somebody I absolutely respect and admire. I think I'm going to make the blade on this just about as long as it is now. So I'm going to do a step down, which creates a little shoulder. motor I created there where the blade and the handle are going to meet. Just grab my big boy hammer again. I've already have the thickness of that. I'm going to chisel that off. I'm going to hot cut it over the edge of the anvil. That'll trim that material down a lot. I can, yeah. A lot of times I'll make a lot of what I'm doing with that welder is welding handles on for railroad spikes. One is made out of a bolt. This was a coil spring. This up a little bit. Do a little light blandishing blows. Turn this around because I need to start squaring out a section for the handle. Now, as I said before, I need to hot cut this and the bolt tip off. See how I've thinned all of that out right there at the tip? That's where I'm hot cutting that off, so that way I have a nice clean section to work with. Alright, I can start making the handle now. I might be able to use my blade tools on that, I don't know. Don't believe I will. I believe. Might be able to make this work. Woo, that was hot. Yeah, I think I might have to switch to my small tongs for this. Right now. Just gotta go grab those. Oh, no, I don't. They're right here. These are for handling exceptionally thin, small stuff. Yeah, I can make swords if I have them. Just as it sounds. Get it hot and cut it with force. Yeah. 100% exactly like it sounds. I don't cut all the way through because the face of the anvil is hardened, the face of the hammer is hard. If I were to do that, make contact, I could blow a chip right through my anvil. and that basically would become a bullet. And I don't feel like getting hit with shrapnel today. This is propane, so it's not an enclosed environment. This is an open environment. I do not forge in an enclosed space. This will fit my blade tongs. If so, that'll be a lot easier to control. Absolutely. Much more better. I appreciate that, man. Y'all hang out, chat, have some fun, talk. Chat's always much more fun, and these videos are always a lot more fun if they're interactive. See the shape that knife's taken now. Anyways, I'm gonna try and cut that off right there hot. Absolutely, everybody like, subscribe, comment, tell us where you're at. Where are y'all watching from? That's what always blows my mind, is finding out where everybody's from. Alright, now we can start drilling out this one a bit better. man. I grew up in Ohio. I'm actually in southeast Arkansas now, but I grew up in Ohio. I was always a big fan of, maybe not necessarily a big fan of Penn State, but I enjoyed watching them well enough. This handle fairly short. It's a fairly short blade. It doesn't need a really long handle. So we're going to go ahead and start hot cutting. There we go. Got my shoulder set for the hot cut. Man, I've had people from like Thailand watching. That's pretty cool when you get people from all over the world watching. I love that. My goal is to try to keep that the same thickness of material as much as possible. Keep that material the same size. Makes it a lot easier to work with in the end. Fresh piece here. Right there along the edge of the handle. It means I can probably break it free without having to do any more swinging. Oh yeah, it's just going to shear right off. Yep. Put that in my scrap bucket. I will use that piece later on another project. Now I need to clean up that spine where the blade transitions into the handle. Get that nice and level, and that'll be a really nice clean profile for a blade. Very similar to a Loveless style drop point hunter. It's one of my favorite blades. I think it's clean, it's elegant, it's not overstated. And it's basically the knife shape that everybody kind of thinks of for the most part when they think of a knife. Bob Loveless really did come up with a beautiful style of knife when he created the Loveless drop point hunter. Straight too. Now I need to, like I said before, clean up the little transition where the blade meets the handle right there. You see it's kind of warped in. Just need to bring that back down. No, I'm not in Florida, thankfully. I'm in southeast Arkansas. I'm not far from Florida, but far enough away that I'm not there. I need to switch out my propane bottles real quick. Give me just 1 second. isn't he? Absolutely sell some of my work. You can find my Facebook page. It's same as my YouTube channel, Show Steel Works, and you can find my work on there. I sell all the time. I've got something on there for sale. Fix that big lump that was missing out right there on this side, or on the back rather. Now it's all about profile cleanup. And thank you for the subscription, man. I'd really appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, the Loveless Drop Point Hunter is truly my favorite style of blade. Not enough people order them. I don't think people realize just how clean and elegant a style of knife it is until they get it in their hands and they realize, yeah, this is actually really nice. And this would be a very small drop point hunter. Usually they're around 8 inches overall length. Yeah, Loveless really hit the nail on the head with that design, I promise you. Woo! Well, time for a new handle for this hammer. Gotta be very gentle with this hammer. It's a little heavier. I don't have that same flat face to be as forgiving as that other handle does. So I'm gonna have to be very gentle with my hammer blows. Yeah, probably not the best practice, Calidor. Yeah, I've made much larger weapons. I made a Viking Old Ferret sword out of Damascus. The handle didn't come out quite the way I wanted to, but the customer was still happy. I was not. But that it is what it is. Kemp, I do not understand Arabic. I believe that's what that is. I'm wrong, correct me, but I don't speak Arabic at all. I can't even read the shit. Sorry. Take a bunch of this forge scale off. So my
my brush as I can, because this knife is nearly ready for heat treat. I tend to heat treat before I do anything further. Like I said, I want to clean this up a little bit, but I'm actually fairly happy with the profile on this one. Most of the cleanup I can do with the grinder. I believe I can get the rest of that with the grinder. I already like the way that's going. I'm going to get this one ready for heat treat. Now I've got to get rid of this threaded section of the bolt. So back to hot cutting. I'm going to let that come back up to temperature. Maybe I can get my tongs to open back up. There we go. Alright. In preparation for heat treat, I like to normalize. Especially on steels I'm not 100% sure of, I like to normalize 3 times. Which means I sit there and I look at it and I just let it cool. Very simple. Nothing fancy or magical about it. I let it cool off 3 times because that's where I've had the most success. Disclaimer, don't do like I do, kids. Vaping, smoking, all that's bad for you, don't do it. Now that disclaimer's out of the way, we can get back to doing the blacksmith stuff. Go ahead and knock some of that forge scale off again. It did not, so I'm going to have to hold that while that comes down in temperature after I straighten it back out. I may have to put the bolts aside for a little bit. The easiest way to shear it while making a clean shear. There are faster ways, but this is the easiest. When your steel cooperates, it's the easiest. It is doing everything in its power to not cooperate today. There she goes. I'm going to set this steel aside. For a future project. Now we've got to very gently straighten out that drop point. Okay, back to the fire. And now back to learning. Hey King, how's it going, man? Starting, but I live in a residential neighborhood. Any tips? How loud is it? Will it possibly get neighbors upset if I do it in my driveway from time to time? Okay, so that's a really good question, and it depends on how cool your neighbors are, man. Really, 100% depends how cool your neighbors are. I've got pretty chill neighbors, but I also live in the country. As far as how loud does it get, depends on how well you quiet your anvil. You can wrap chain around your anvil. You can you can put a magnet underneath the heel of your anvil, stuff like that. It will help quiet the ringing down. There are things you can do. I would recommend 100% you start with a propane forge and a 2.5 pound hammer. Nothing heavier than that, because starting out you need to build up your arm strength. You need to build up your you need to build up resistance to the shock in your tendons and everything, and your ligaments in your wrist. If you don't, you will regret it. Trust me, I started with a 4-pound hammer, and that was one of the worst mistakes I ever made. My elbow to this day gets sore just looking at my 4-pound hammer. Also, before you even make a single knife or anything else, make 100 leaf keychains. That will teach you 100% of the stuff you need to know in order to make these. All of the basic skills in making this, you should perfect before you try to make a knife, because otherwise your first knives are going to be absolute garbage, and they're probably going to be garbage anyways. But you will get very discouraged if you start with knives and you realize, I can't make a knife very easily. I should have started on something different. Now I don't want to do this anymore because my work's garbage, my knives suck. Yep, from air normalizing that, instead of laying it on the anvil, it should come out fairly straight. A little bit of bend, but not much. Back in the fire. Thanks, King. If you have a friend also, Shogun, if you have a friend who lives in the country, not a very heavily residential, area, you can talk to them about, hey, you think I could come over and use your shop or your driveway or whatever and bang on a piece of steel for a little bit. If you're over the age of 21 and your friend's a drinker, say, hey, I'll buy you some brew. Let's hang out and do this. It's always much more fun when you've got a friend to blacksmith with. I think spending time with friends and doing that out together, we're back up to critical temperature. There we go. And yes, King, I am doing well. I'm out in my shop. I'm forging. I really can't complain. It would be foolish to do so. Absolutely, Shogun. 100%. I love to see new makers. If you do start blacksmithing, please reach out to me on Facebook at Shope Steelworks, and I will help you any way I can. As far as knowledge goes, so there is always that. Don't try to find an anvil unless you just are made of money. They're expensive, ridiculously expensive, and they're not justified by the cost unless you just like the aesthetic. There are a million different anvil shape objects you can use. You can go to a machine shop in your local area, say, hey, do you have any cutoffs of 4140 or something similar that I can take home with me? And you mount that on a stump or some form or fashion of anvil stand. That'll save you hundreds of dollars. For instance, the anvil I'm using right now cost me $300. Would have cost me. It was a gift. It would have cost me $300. That's right. King, fuck HOAs. I think HOAs are the biggest pieces of garbage this country's ever freaking seen. More so than anything else. More so than any Republican, Democrat, Independent you can imagine. HOAs are the devil's work. And not in a good way like rock and roll. HOAs are the devil's payback for us enjoying rock and roll. All right, this is my last normalization cycle, and then I'm going to go in for a heat treat. See, that thing is screaming hot. Man, King, also, there is bound to be a blacksmithing society in your area. 100% guaranteed, every state has one. You may have to drive or get a ride an hour or so away to go do it. But I guarantee you, there's one somewhere. Dude, I live in a single wide trailer in the middle of BFE. And I tell you what, absolutely the greatest decision in the world I've ever made. I don't have to deal with nosy neighbors. I don't have to deal with people that I don't like. I'm very shy as well, King. This is how I get my shyness out, if that makes sense. I don't like too many people, so this is the way I interact with people without having to actually interact with people, if that makes sense. I'm not saying you guys aren't real people, just that I'm not having to deal with you in person, or a great number of you in person. All right, I've got to get this into the fire. I'm going to go ahead and turn you guys to my quench tank so you guys can see the quench. Hey, 10 viewers, 10 likes. I love it. Now I need to turn this around and glue back the spine and the handle. Which in theory, if I glue back this blade correctly, I should still be able to drill my handle pins and temper the blade all in one, to where the blade will still be hard enough to hold an edge, and I'll still be able to drill handle holes. Just gotta be very careful not to allow the heat to move too much. I'm judging it by the way the oil dissipates off the blade, which is not the best way. There are much better ways. Oh, that's perfect. I can see the dull red in the blade, or in the handle, and the blade is not heated up, and I can see a slight straw color on the exposed steel sections of the blade. We're going to let that cool off. Just a little bit. Make sure it stays somewhat straight. Slight warp, slight wiggle. Nothing that I can't fix on the grinder. Hey man, you can talk, I can come back and read. One thing I do have is an above average reading comprehension. Don't let the dumb redneck appearance fool you. I actually somehow managed to convince the school I went to, the college I went to put me in college on the presidents and deans list. How the hell I did that, I have no fucking idea. I'm not the smartest cookie on the planet. I just got lucky, I guess. Oh no, you're not distracting me, man. If I'm ever feeling distracted, I look away. 100% capable of changing my focus when need be. So okay, this is the first time I've been able to have hands on this actual blade now. So, as you can see, fits in my hand. The end of the blade is going to come out right here. Man, I've tried so hard to get on Forged in Fire. They are, I guess, looking for somebody a lot prettier than me, because they will not accept me on that show for whatever reason. I've tried and tried and tried. But let's go ahead and hit this with the grinder real quick. Just take a look at it. I don't see any cracks. I do have a slight bend I'm probably going to have to fix right there. Now you can see the style of that point really coming down now. Hey man, I appreciate it. Thank you. No cracks. We got a few little divots we got to clean up, but other than that, yeah, not bad. Hey, I'm working on it, Galador. I've never given up on anything. That warp's a lot worse than I initially suspected it was. So I'm not going to be able to grind it out without basically turning this knife into a pen knife, and I don't want to do that. I really like the profile it has now. So I'm going to have to reheat it, kill the heat treat I just put on here, and do it all over again. But first I want to make sure that heat treat even took. Hear how that skates off the steel? It's not biting in. That means that's hardened. Wonder about the back. You can hear the difference? That bites almost immediately. So, this is definitely a hardened blade. Unfortunately, I have to make it a soft blade again. I've got to be very careful about the way I do this. Do this wrong, and I ruin the blade entirely. While that's heating up, I'm going to go grab my swath. Now, because that's a hardened steel blade, I'm going to let it rest on the anvil. That'll allow it to come back down slowly and not be ruined when I go to swing a hammer at it again. Otherwise, I could destroy the blade entirely. We're going to be using this hammer to fix that little part. After I get this wood fixed, I'm going to allow it to cool off. That's going to be the end of the video because I forgot I do want to drill a handle on this. And a hardened blade is hard to drill. the end because you make a better product. You guys can watch as that cools down. You'll see kind of color shifts in there, and that's the grain normalizer. Very subtle, but it's very interesting. Alright. Now, I'm going to heat the tang all the way up. I'm going to take a block of steel and put in there with it. Round rod will work nicely. It's going to be used to keep the blade oriented on its spine. So when I anneal it, it should, in theory, stay straight. Much easier in another. Alright. It now goes back in, vertically mounted. Mostly vertically mounted anyway. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it. I've been going for an hour. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Yeah, I would like to get onto Forged in Fire. The way that's going to happen is through you find people on YouTube watching, liking, subscribing, getting that following going. And me holding up my end of the deal by making videos on a regular basis. I try to do the live feed because I'm trash at doing editing, so there is that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. It's been an hour. I'm ready to go inside. It's hot, at least over here by the forge. So I'm gonna go inside. I'm gonna spend some time with my wife and my family. Hopefully you guys have a great Sunday afternoon and stay safe during the work week. Thanks for watching, guys.